Hey guys, it's Kate, and welcome back to another episode of Girl Talk. I'm really excited about today's episode. It's a little bit different than previous episodes in the sense that we're kind of going to be talking a little bit more about music and a lot of music stuff, honestly. This was a super fun episode to film, but we're kind of talking more about music and the process of recording and live recordings and that kind of stuff, as opposed to our usual stuff, which is more like relationships and friendships and stuff like that. So I'm really excited that we kind of have a little bit of a different format going on today. I'm also really excited because this is my first time having a guest on for the second time. So today's guest is Wedeline Casimir, and she was on an episode back in 2020, but it was a collective episode with several other women. So this will be her second time on the show, and I'm really happy that she agreed to be on. And she has some really exciting stuff coming up, some really special things that we're going to be talking about. So I'm just really excited for you guys to get to know her and to see this episode, because I honestly had so much fun filming it, getting to know her a little more. And I just know that you guys are going to love it. And I just can't wait for you guys to see it. So make sure that you grab a snack, grab a coffee. There's a lot of condensation on mine because I've been sitting here for a while. But grab a snack, grab some coffee, grab a friend, and let's just get into this episode. Hey guys, I'm here with Wedeline Casimir. I'm very excited to have her on today. We are going to talk about music. We're going to talk about her live recording, her upcoming album, and a whole lot of other stuff. She was in a video that I did about 3 years ago with a couple other women. And if you guys want to check that out, I'll have that linked down below. But I'm really excited to have her on a solo episode today, and I hope that you guys enjoy it. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited. The last podcast that we did was lots of fun, really hot topics at that time. So
Yeah.
we'll be back kind of talking about music and what God has been doing in my life. So yeah, thank you. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. So I usually start off by just having guests kind of talk a little bit about themselves and kind of like where you're from, what you do, interests, things like that, just so we can kind of get to know you a little more.
So I'm currently in Atlanta, Georgia, which is like home. I'm originally from Tampa, Florida, but I moved to Atlanta in my teenage years, so I always claim both cities. I am a musician, singer, or music Christian artist, and I am over the music and worship arts at my church. And when I'm not at church or singing or doing things like music direction, I am a grant writer. I have a business where I help nonprofits and arts organizations get funding, which I love writing. So it just works for me because I get to do it anywhere, no matter what time or day. So I love that. It gives me the flexibility to work in ministry and work in music without feeling like all my time is taken. And so, yeah, that's what I do. And I love singing, obviously. And so I sing and stuff like that. So any kind of vocalist things. And over the summer, this past year, I did a lot of teaching young kids music theater and things like that. So have a background in music theater, music direction, vocal coaching.
Wow, that's really cool. I love musical theater. I'm like super into stuff like that. And that's really cool about the grants too. How did you get into that?
Okay, so funny story. So I started teaching private voice lessons full time during COVID 2020. And I found that while I love doing it, I didn't want to raise my prices too much because I wanted to keep my clients happy, right? It was either I was going to have to raise my prices or raise my clientele and or like my list of enrollments. The reason why I needed to do any of those things was because I needed to be able to advance, like obviously, and support myself better, especially with all of my music endeavors. And I felt like those two options were not good enough for me because one, while I love teaching private lessons, it's a lot. You have to be on for your students. It doesn't matter what day you're having. This is their only hour with you, and that can be mentally taxing. And then on
Yeah.
top of that, I didn't want to raise the prices a lot because I didn't want to, I just didn't like the way that felt. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. And so then I was like, Lord, I need more money. I need to be able to support myself while I pursue all the gifts that you've given me. And I just honestly started like researching, like, okay, jobs that are remote that you can do and da 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 da. And I found grant writing. It was funny because when I was in college, my minor is music entrepreneurship. And so in that minor, I studied nonprofit administration and I also studied grant writing. That's my first introduction to it. So I remembered it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like fully in line with, the arts admin that I love to do. So basically, arts admin is the business side of arts. So any theater, any opera, any whatever, there's someone in a cubicle making it all run. And so I'm one of those people that I really like to use both sides of my brain. So I'm a singer, performer, all those things, but I also love the admin side. And grant writing was a way for me to kind of do that. So I started working for a theater as a development manager and doing their grants. And that worked for me because it felt like when I wasn't singing or doing something like a performative artistically, I was still artistically pushing the arts through admin. And so that led one thing to another. I got my certificate and in grant writing, and now I have a business and I do that. That's my main job.
Wow, that's really cool. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone doing that before. That's pretty cool. Did you do any like musical theater when you were young
Oh
or
yeah,
like in
I
high
did.
school?
Yeah, I did some in middle school. I went to performing arts middle school, and I also went to performing arts high school. And so I did some middle school, and I did some in high school as well before I moved to Atlanta. And so when I moved to Atlanta, it kind of changed things. I moved after like so in Florida, they have this thing called magnet system. Basically, you can go to any school ever if you apply, whatever, at enough earlier time. So no matter where you live, you can get on a bus, a school bus, and they'll take you to their schools. Atlanta's school system is a little different. They don't necessarily have the magnet program that I had in Florida, which allowed me to go to schools that weren't zoned to. So I ended up going to a school that didn't really have that program, which really sucked. I did chorus and instruments, but it really sucks. I was really happy to get back into theater, at least with that side of things at towards the end of my college and then when I graduated. But yeah.
My school, we did like a lot of music stuff. We did like a Christian school competition like every year with other Christian schools, and it was like super intense. But we never really did any musicals after elementary, which I thought was kind of odd. Like we always did a Christmas musical in elementary, and it was always like sixth grade gets to be the leads. So once you got to sixth grade, it was like, all right, it's
Yeah.
on. But we never did it in middle school. We always did like things that for whatever reason there wasn't any music. So I was like one of like the 12 angry jurors or something like that. I think it's usually men or something, but they changed it because there was women and men. And then we did like Miracle on 34th Street, like stuff like that. So I was always like, man, I want to do musical theater. I feel like I'm such like a musical person, but it doesn't really like work to do like full-time like theater as an adult. I feel like when you do ministry too.
Mhm.
So it's so tough because I'm like, if Into the Woods ever comes into town, you best believe I'm trying out for Cinderella,
that's
the I'm
that's
trying out
bomb.
for
Oh my god.
Red what
You hit something on the head though. Like I feel like this last season, because I've been back into theater and teaching, and I actually did an audition recently for the first time in like years. I auditioned for Legally Blonde, the musical.
ooh.
um I wanted to be one of the friends, and I've been like, I felt like the Lord gave it back to me because I feel like when I was in college, He asked me to surrender it. Because when I
Mhm.
was going to college, I really wanted to get my bachelor's in fine arts in music theater, and I didn't get in. And I was going to apply again, and I was going to apply again, and I felt like the Lord told me no. And I remember thinking like, I really love theater. I was ready to get back into it. But looking back on it, they rehearsed every day. So like going to church on Wednesdays, that was out. Going to youth
Yeah.
on Friday nights, that was out. My life would have been theater and school and ministry and church would have probably been at the very bottom. And God knows where I would have been had I gone down that route. And some people can do it. I just think that for me, it was so recently, God, I felt like I prayed and I felt like the Lord opened a door for me to, kind of reintroduce it back into my life in not in an idle type way. But it's made me think about that. Like, man, I've always felt like it's very hard to like be saved and do
Mhm.
that industry full force. Because first of all, the shows that are out there, can you do it with a clean conscience? Can you?
Right.
Can you really? Even if your character is clean, can you actually support? Like I had moments like that in high school. I remember we were doing Rent, the musical. I was so torn. I was a sophomore in high school. And so, if you know anything about Rent the Musical, I'll just give you a very short synopsis.
Okay.
Basically, there's a lot of same-sex relationships, and there is a theme of fighting, I think, fighting AIDS as well. And there's,
Oh,
there's these group of friends, and they're like, "Oh, we're not going to pay rent." They're going through these things in the winter, and there's a lot of sexual content and same-sex content. And I remember
mm,
being so torn about being in that show. I was like, "No, I'm not going to audition." Oh, but I want to audition. I ended up auditioning, but then I ended up backing out. It was so ridiculous. But that was me as a 15-year-old in high school. And that's the kind of things that are happening. So, like, just imagine, like, you know, as an adult doing that kind of industry and trying to really be saved or
right.
maintain your, not, let me say it clearer, maintain your standards as a Christian and your beliefs. I think it's very difficult to do.
Yeah, for sure. I We did one of the songs for my school's concert choir. It was the Seasons of Love. But it's interesting. I For some reason I just never got into Rent. I love like Wicked and like Into the Woods and stuff like that, but I don't know why I just never got into it because I think I just knew that one song. So I was like, yeah, if somebody ever asks, like I know. She's like, I feel like you need to know at least like one song from like the most popular shows to be like accepted in like the theater community.
Uh-huh.
I did like theater classes and like improv classes and stuff when I went to college, but I just never tried out for anything because I knew like I'm not going to be able to do it. Like I working full time and then also like my dad pastored for like 22 years. He just recently started evangelizing. So like my whole life was being a PK. And so like, that's kind of like a job in itself. Like you got to do like ten jobs at the church. So I was just like, no, I'm not gonna have time. So like all my classmates would be like, are you gonna try out? And I'm like, no. Like y'all have fun though. But they never did any fun productions anyways. It was always something so random I've never heard of. So I was like, yeah, I feel like it's really good that I didn't do it. But that is really cool that even as a kid you like let your convictions lead you because I feel like in high school it's so hard to say no to things, especially when you are a Christian and you do understand that as an adult, you definitely have to say no. So as a kid, I feel like it's easier to be like, well, I'll
It's
just do it now. And then later, then I'll say no when I get older. But right now, it probably doesn't matter because I'm so young and, I can make mistakes. And there's a lot of people with that mindset. But that is really cool that you already were like, no, like my testimony matters more than being in this production of Rent.
yeah, God is good. Yeah.
You kind of talked about this a little bit, but I wanted to hear a little bit more about your testimony and just kind of like, how you are the way that you are now and what kind of has brought you to this point in life.
So I come from like a musical family. My brother, my sister, and me we used to, my brother's like he does every instrument. He made beats, he produced, he sang, he wrote. And so I grew up watching my siblings kind of do their thing and really no one knew I could sing. Nobody knew I could sing until like way later in life. And it's because honestly no one was paying attention to me. I'm the youngest of three. I'm the youngest and so nobody was paying attention. No one realized, oh my gosh, like she can sing. And it didn't really happen until my sister stopped singing. And then they noticed, oh my gosh, she can sing. And so I started singing at church, and I remember like being really young in elementary school singing. Everybody knew like I could sing, and they would make me sing and all this stuff. It was crazy, and it didn't happen until I was 13 that I got saved. So my sister's cosmetology teacher in high school. So she was in high school, I was in middle school. Her cosmetology teacher used to invite her over to do tutoring at her church. It ended up being a church 5 minutes down the street from us, Apostolic Church, a Bethel, at that time, a Bethel Tabernacle. So I used to go with my sister to the tutoring thing because my sister was trying to get credits or whatever. And so that goes on for a while. And then randomly, she's like, oh, we're having friends and family day, da 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 da, church. I want you guys to come. And for me, I've always had a hunger for God. We were Methodists. We went to church. Grew up going to a Haitian church, which is different than apostolic churches. We believe in Jesus. They believe in Jesus, so like that. But you don't really see, Holy Ghost. They baptize Father, Son, and Holy Ghost as well. And
Yeah.
so I went to Christian camps, in the summer. So God was a part of my life. I always had a hunger for God. I feel like even from before I got saved, I got the Holy Ghost. God was always knocking on my heart. Like I used to read my Bible. My siblings would be doing other stuff, but I'll be in my room doing something else. That was me. And so when we went to the church service, I was 13. I felt like everything that I ever was knocking or responding to was just full circle. I felt in that service. I saw people get the Holy Ghost. I saw this, and that. And at that time, there was a lot of family things going on with my parents. And so I really needed God. I really wanted God. And in that service, I just remember like, oh. And so honestly, I think that next Sunday I got baptized.
Wow.
And then I think a few weeks after that, I finally got the Holy Ghost, or maybe 1 or 2 weeks after that. And then from there, I had been going to church ever since. And so I was the first in my family to become apostolic or to get baptized or to get the Holy Ghost. And my sisters were next, and then my brother, and then my mom. And it really, God just really did something. And so when you're that young and you come to true faith, there's a lot of challenges. I was just talking to my best friend about this. Like, you're so on fire, but you're also young, which means your delivery with your friends, maybe you're not always the best. You're zealous, you're pumped, you're excited. We have a youth rally, you need to come, all this stuff, but not everybody is as excited as you. So there's a lot of things I had to learn, go through. And I would say, like, pretty much all my life, I was a thinker. I was always a thinker. I was always ahead. I was always like 7 steps ahead of what's going on. And so that was natural to me. But now I've come to a real revelation of Christ, which means it can be a lot for some people. And so
Yeah.
God took me through some maturing and more maturing. And I remember I did that, went through the years. And then when I finally moved, me and my mom, we left Florida and we moved to Atlanta when I was 16. I started a new school. I started a P7 club that year. And it was really awesome. We used to get bus loads of people from my school and bring them to youth service, and we would have services there. And I remember just
Wow.
really feeling like, God, I'm never turning back. I feel like in my youth, I am really grateful for how God manifested and demonstrated his power to me and using me. I have great mentors. I've had great mentors along the way that's made it possible. Because even like when I was teenager, my youth pastors then, they stayed in my life. Like Sis Sophia Gordon, like she stayed in my life when I moved. And honestly, if it wasn't for the people who stayed, that poured into me, like, I don't know, but I'm so grateful for it because I am who I am because of those people. And then moving to Atlanta was a God move. My pastor, he recently passed away, Bishop Terry. But when I first moved, him and his wife, Sister Terry, the way they poured into me, I mean, they gave me opportunities. I was always singing, of course, but then the opportunities just like skyrocket. Like it just multiplied like crazy. Like, the doors that opened for me being under their leadership, man, it's crazy. So I'm forever indebted to them. But yeah, God has been really faithful. So to be now like here where I'm at, where I'm releasing my own music and doing these like miracle stuff because they're miracles. They're not happening because I'm cool or anything like that. They're happening because God is crazy, like miraculous.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to be on the other end of it.
That's so awesome. When you were talking about how you always had that hunger and you felt like God was knocking on your door, the door of your heart, I literally got chills. I literally did. My mom was the first one in her family to get saved at 12.
Wow.
Um, And so, yeah, so she's first generation and yeah, she was able to get her mom to come with her and her mom was saved for something like 40 years before she passed away. Um
Wow.
maybe more, it could be more, I'm not sure. And then my aunt is saved and then my other aunt has been coming to church ever since my grandma passed away, which is awesome. So now we all get to go together, which is cool.
Yeah, that everyone's
Yeah. It's so
yeah.
awesome. We're still working on my uncle, so pray for my uncle. But
I'm praying.
um but yeah, it's so crazy. I love hearing testimonies like that because it's so interesting how I feel like kids are so sensitive and some kids just they always have like a hunger or a desire for something, but they don't really maybe understand even what it is. They just know that there's got to be more and they don't really know like how to even put that into words. Another one of my friends, it was the same thing. She was kind of just like a Easter Christmas type of Christian and she would always ask her dad like can we go to church and he was like no, we're not church people in this family. But she started dating one of my friends and he was kind of in that phase where she's like, "Can I go to church with you?" And he was like, "No, like, you don't even need to." And she was like, "I want to." So
Wow.
we're like, she got you into church. Like you were already in church, but
Crazy.
she got you back in because it was like within a month she was like, "I'm saved. Like let's go."
She was
So it
hungry.
was yeah, it was awesome. Like we all got to be there when she got the Holy Ghost and she
Mhm.
just whenever she always like talked about that just how she always desired it but she didn't even really understand why. I just think it's so interesting how God will like place that hunger in your heart from like a young age even if you don't even really understand. I just think that's so interesting and it just goes to show you that like God really does have a plan from even when you're a young kid. And so just to see the way that God has like used you and your testimony, that's so awesome. And I always just love to like have people share too, because, the Bible says that we overcome by the word of our testimony. So I love sharing that. And I don't know, I think it's very interesting to hear everybody's different stories.
Absolutely. I think it's a beautiful thing too. Like you said something that made me think about it. There is a work that God does on a heart that no person can start or stop, right? Like your friend's girlfriend, she had a hunger, period. You know what I'm saying? Like nothing happened. It was just like there's a work that the Holy Ghost does that no one else can do. Like when I
Mhm.
think about that, when it comes to like witnessing to people, sometimes like we can feel like weight on our shoulder, like, oh, what if they don't want to? What if da da da? But the truth is, there is a work in the heart that only the Holy Ghost can do. So we plant the seed, we do whatever we can, but God is the one that is like really knocking, and there only they can feel or discern that. And so, like, whenever I think about, like I said, witnessing or soul winning, I always like try to remember how like God gave me a desire, and while there was things that helped make it grow, I actually felt it. Or people like that, they actually feel it. Like you just have to kind of like believe that, okay, beyond my words to you or beyond my invitation to you as I'm praying for you, you know, there's going to be a knocking that only the Holy Ghost can do. And it gives me like faith. Like if God could save me in a very peculiar way, like I wasn't apostolic, I didn't know about the Holy Ghost. My family wasn't raised in that, and God still saved me. Like it's so amazing because truly salvation is really a miracle. It really is a miracle.
Yeah. I'm always very like encouraged when I hear stuff like that because, I know how fortunate I am and people like me to be raised in the church and like I don't think that you should ever take that for granted and I don't know, I feel like some people do and that kind of frustrates me when I hear sometimes just about people doing things just because they know that God's going to forgive them anyways, or sort of like abusing that grace. I just love hearing stories about people just getting into church and immediately like having a life change and not taking that for granted at all.
Mhm.
And so, if you're like me and you were raised in church, like don't take that grace for granted. Like don't do a bunch of stupid stuff in your youth because you really are going to regret it. I don't regret all the things I decided not to do. I don't regret any of that. I feel like sometimes you feel like maybe you're missing out, but all the friends that I have that didn't grow up in church and got into church as teens or as adults, like all of them will tell you that it's not a better life. It's really not. I feel very encouraged when I hear things like that. So thank you for sharing. So we talked a little bit about your family's background in music, and my family has a music background as well. Me and my siblings used to kind of, I don't want to say tour, but my dad, when he would preach, we would like go with him and sing. And I don't know if you're familiar with like the Wilbanks. Um, they wanted us to tour with them and be their opening act and like be on their tour bus and stuff when we were young. And we really considered, but we were just like, no, we don't want to do that. But it was a really cool opportunity. They kind of mentored us for a while. And so, like, in Michigan, it was so hard to get away from people calling us the Arnold Trio because that was like our thing. And we were like, please, like, stop calling us that. It's been years. But it was the same thing for me. Like, for whatever reason, I don't know who they thought the third person was, but people would always be like, "Oh, you can sing." And I'm like, "Trio. Who would the third person be? My dog?"
There's an angel. There's an angel with it.
Literally. I'm like, "Did you guys think one of my parents? Like, who would the third person be?" I always think it's cool when people also grow up in like musical families because it really is like its own niche thing. Not everybody can relate. So I'm sure you guys did a lot of like family, like random sing-alongs throughout the house and
Yeah, like me and my
sing.
siblings for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's we still do that. Whenever my sister comes into town, my mom's always like secretly videoing us and we're like, "Mom,
Um,
stop." Since you have that background, I'm sure it was like a pretty seamless transition, but kind of like how did you get into deciding that you wanted to make music like a career and also just like get into like recording and writing and stuff like that?
I've been singing since I could talk, and so I didn't. So I would be in, like you said, elementary musicals, middle school musicals. I was in chorus in middle school, and I got my first piano in middle school, and so that was like, huh. You couldn't tell me nothing. I would spend hours on the keyboard learning every song that I loved. I really looked up to Alicia Keys at that time, and so I learned all of her songs. And I mean, I just love that she sang and she played, and so um, I would spend hours doing searching on YouTube how to play a ba 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 on piano, how da 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 on piano, and so I think I wrote my first Christian song. Well, honestly, I think I wrote my first song in middle school or late elementary school, and then I wrote my first Christian song in middle school, and I think it was called "Break Me." Break me
Hmm.
to be more like you. I loved Kim Walker also, so it was very Kim Walker-ish. It was
I love
really Kim
it.
Walker-ish. You know how she wrote, like the way she sang, it was, I want to say what you said. It honestly
Yes.
sounded a whole lot like, where you go, I go, where you say, I say, God. It was a lot like that song, if you know.
So a little bit of like plagiarism going on,
Yeah,
like
it was
we
a
talked about
lot like
earlier.
that song. Yeah, when I think about it now, I'm like, I don't know if it was that original, but the words were, and I meant it, and I wrote it in prayer, and I remember, just crying and uh,
Mm,
I spent a lot of time in prayer. There was a lot going on in my home. And so it was really just me and God a lot of the times, me and God and my Bible. And I know that sounds like so cliche, like something on the TV, but really that was my life. And I spent a lot of time singing to the Lord, reading, and most of my songs were written from my prayer closet. And so from there, whatever it came, I just started writing it down. I would, you know, play it on a keyboard, write it down. I wasn't really thinking. I knew I wanted to release music because I always wanted to do music. So that was never, that didn't change. I feel like I always knew I wanted to do music and sing. I always knew that. So I don't know when I made the switch. Like I just knew that I don't know. I don't know. I just knew that I wanted to do music and I wanted to release it. And one day I would. And so with my brother also being an artist, we had an at-home studio, we would record and all this stuff. So it wasn't very foreign for me. It felt natural. It didn't feel like something that was unattainable because I felt like it was all around me. My brother produced, he would record, and before I got saved, I would do vocals on some of his stuff, and it was just natural. And so I just knew that eventually I was gonna have to find, especially after I got saved, I was gonna have to find a way to get my music from A to B to everybody else. And so I think that's when I, made the switch. Okay, like what am I gonna do? How am I gonna do this? What does it look like? I really don't know if I had a plan at that time. It just kind of happened naturally, or I just knew it would happen. I think God just, I just knew I was called to do it. And so I just believed that it would happen. And that was that. It was just so simple to me. I've been writing since maybe fifth grade or sixth grade. I didn't release my first song until my freshman year of college. And it
Mm.
happened organically as well. I had a friend that I had known, and he took special interest in my voice, and, really provided opportunity for me to record the song, and that was the beginning. And up until that, I mean, songs for days that I had written, and but releasing that one was the beginning. And so in college, we have practice rooms. So I was a music student, and we have these things called practice rooms. And practice rooms are supposed to be like, it's kind of soundproof rooms with, there's a keyboard in there, and you can practice. You can practice your voice or practice keyboard. And so at that time, I was living in a dorm with two other roommates. And of course, that meant I couldn't just like pray in here and have worship in here because people are in the room. So I would go to the practice rooms and have my time with the Lord. And so that would always end up with me singing and singing at the keyboard or something. So during college, I mean, at least my freshman year for sure, I was a writing machine. I wrote so many songs. And even on this album that's coming out, the album is called With Him, Winter and Spring. And With Him is the song that I actually wrote my freshman year of college, or my sophomore
Wow.
year of college. Yeah. And so it's actually, the title track. It's crazy. And so one thing led to another. After that, I was released. I was working on it, and I kind of let God open the door for me to sing at conferences and things like that that helped bring awareness to what God had given me. And I think that this past season, I really realized how everything really is like there's a snowball effect. The more you put in, it's only going to get bigger and bigger. You just have to keep putting in. And the effort that it takes, or the reach, keeps, multiplying as long as you keep going. And I'm looking back and I'm like, man, I remember my first single and the reach we had then versus now, the reach that one had. It's just so crazy to look at the journey of just being consistent and being faithful and
Yeah.
stewarding your gifts correctly. And I had released
Mhm.
a song every year except for 2021, I think. And so from 2015 or 2016 to 2023, I had released a song every year besides 2021. In 2020, I released an EP, and then we did a live recording in 2022. And I was just like, wow, God, this is crazy. Like, wow, you give visions, God will download a picture in your head and you believe it. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you doubt,
Yeah.
but you don't know how it's going to happen, and you don't really know the ins and outs or what you're going to go through. Because honestly, like with this album, a lot of the songs that I wrote were from really painful seasons, and it was just me and God and my song, you know? God allowed me to go through those things. And now there's music on the other end of it that is a testimony. Like you said, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. They're testimonies. And when people hear them, if they relate, the hope is that they also overcome. And so it's just crazy. Like this vision that God has given you is going to come to pass, but you have no idea how or what's it going to entail. And I feel like I've had a lot of favor. The Lord has really blessed me with amazing people that believe in me, invested in me. By no means have I done this by my own effort. It's not me. People have given them their time, their gifts, their talents, and truly just supported me in lifting up my ladder to do what God has told me to do. It's crazy. I think that that's also one of the things that stop people from pursuing what God has given them, because they just don't believe that they're either good enough or that people are going to listen. The truth is, there's always God given resources. You just have to start, you know? And God is going to give you what you need. I really couldn't tell at all. Like even the live recording, I keep saying it like to everyone I talk to about it, but it is a miracle. It truly
Yeah.
is a miracle. It's not because, I don't think things like that you do because you're ambitious or you have zeal. Those things don't cut it. It's either God told you you're going to do it and then he's going to have your back, or I would leave that alone because it truly takes a miracle to get it done.
And I really like what you said too about like the consistency, because I feel like that is something that people often will overlook. They'll just see like someone in the place where they are now and they're like, "Well, I want to get there, but like," and it's like, "Well, you didn't see all the work that this person put in."
Mhm.
Like I'm very like lucky and blessed because the church that I go to, the worship leader is Draylon Young. So I love that I get to hear him on Sundays. But also like even before I was going to that church, like I've always lived in Michigan. So whenever he moved here, I was able to see like the transition from like IBC vocalist to like him putting out these little singles, and then this single was a little bit bigger, this one was a little, and then this album like blew up, so I was able to see that progression. And so I know that it didn't just happen overnight, but maybe other people might see that and be like, well, he's just a big name. It's like, but he puts in a lot of effort and a lot of prayer, and also like First Church has just been so supportive of him as well, which is, I know not everyone has that experience, but I do think that yeah, consistency is definitely key in anything that you do. If you have a podcast or you have a YouTube channel, like I know that I didn't just automatically get subscribers out of nowhere. Like I was posting videos and like my mom and my sister were the only ones watching them, like, but
Yeah.
I was like, I need to be consistent until something starts to happen. So I don't know. Basically, I feel like people don't often like talk about like the journey or just kind of like the work that they had to put in to get to where they are. But I remember the first time that I ever heard your voice, I was it at 2019 or 2017 NAYC that you sang?
Yeah, it's really
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember me and my brother, we were like, who is that? Like we'd never heard it before. So we were like, wait, like she's really good. Who is this girl? So then Weston was like, my brother was like, okay, I'm gonna like figure out who she is. And then he was like, this is a banger. He was like sending your songs to like all
Oh
of our
my
friends, like,
gosh.
y'all gotta listen to this girl. She's really good. So my brother has been a fan since day one.
I love it. I love
But
it.
yeah, I remember he would send me like your singles and be like, oh yeah, like this one's really good too. And whenever I had you on the video a couple years ago, he was like, Unshakable Faith is a banger. Let her know that I like it. And I was like, okay.
Oh, that's so
Um,
sweet. Thank
yeah, so I mean, we're really into it. And also I love Chris Branch's song, Endless
you.
Capacity. I love it. So when I saw that y'all did a song together, I was like, okay,
So I'm so
okay.
yeah.
Because I don't know, that song is so cool.
It is really
Like
good.
somebody needs to do a boy talk with him because like I
Yeah.
always have men like it's not fair that you only do girls, and I'm like it's called girl talk, so like you're not invited, no offense, but yeah, like somebody needs to get him on and talk about that because that song is so cool.
Yeah.
But I think I told you this at NAYC, but something about the flow of your song with him was
Mm.
giving big Naomi Rain vibes on your voice. I
Are
don't
you
know
talking about
why.
just you?
What is the faster one called with Chris?
Oh, my delight. My delight.
Okay. I
Yeah.
don't know, like the way I was like, because I love her voice and I
Yeah.
love like Maverick's music. Like, I don't know, their style is very unique to them. I
Mhm.
know everybody has their opinions, but
Yeah.
I like Maverick. So I saw them in concert. They were a little goofy. They were doing like fake praise dancing, so I was kind of like, all right, y'all, none of that. But yeah, I was like, let's reel it in. But other than that, I really think she has like such a unique voice.
No,
So
she's the real deal. I agree.
she's
Like
got the oil in her.
she's legit. Yeah. I like her a lot.
So I do too. So I was like, wait, is her voice? I sent it to my brother. Is she kind of giving Naomi Rain in this song? And he was like, yes. So, anyways, I'm not just talking about your music because of the episode. Like we really do listen to it and we really do like it. I
Thank
I have
you.
Of course. I have this apostolic music playlist that I've been like kind of curating for like years. Like I always add to it every time someone releases a new single, even if I don't know them. And I have a lot of people that follow the playlist because a lot of like new converts, like it's hard for them to find music. And so this way it's all in one place. So I have like tons of people following that playlist, which I think is really funny. But so I listen to that all the time. And since a lot of yours are new, they're all at the top. So I listen to them like every day.
Yay.
And I love them. I was telling you this before we started recording, but I do feel like you have like a very unique sound. And I feel like music nowadays can kind of start to sound a little similar or a little like repetitive, but I could definitely see your songs being used in like a conference or like a concert or like a church service. Like I feel like they're very like versatile, and so I don't know. I really like them.
Thank
So
you. That makes me so happy. I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
so we kind of talked about, just like the process of how you got into music and your journey. But as far as like this live recording, how has that been different from, I'm assuming you mostly did like studio recordings before?
It has been a journey, and everything that journey means, it has been that. As in, lots of work. And so, a little bit about how I do any of my releases first. There is a very practical side, right? You make songs, you decide that you're going to keep releasing songs, and you do that, right? And I submit that practical side to the Lord. So, whatever release I'm going to do or whatever I'm going to do next, I really pray about it to determine, okay, what song I'm going to do next or whatever, whatever. And so I actually have been praying about the live recording for about a year and a half, because I have felt like, God was putting it on my heart, like, okay, a live recording, a live recording. Okay. And so in 2022, well, I started praying for that in 2021. In 2022, I felt like God said, okay, There Is a Man is my single before the live recording. I released that. It was my first time self-producing, which meant I picked my musicians. I had a lot to do with, I write all my music, and I also most times already have music to it, but I directed the whole thing, and that was my first time ever doing something like that, because before I would use a producer to take my vision and then make it happen. But for this one, I was really involved with the whole process, and that was kind of like the skyrocket into the live recording, because everybody that I used from that record ended up playing for my live recording, which is crazy. I'll talk about relationships as well, because I'm super relationship oriented. Everybody who was a part of my live recording was someone I had some kind of relationship with. I'm really big on that. And so, anywho, after There Was a Man was released, all I could see was a live recording next. And so I began to pray and say, God, you usually show me what to do because you show me. So basically what I'm saying is anything I've ever done, I always see it first. God always gives me like some kind of, all right, this is the next steps. And all I could see was a live recording. I was like, okay, God, I need you to be clear that you're telling me this, because I know it takes so much time, money, things that I ain't got. So I know it's you. And if I know it's you, then I know you're going to back me up. I'm not going to just do it because I'm excited. No, you don't do those kind of things just because you're excited. You really got to be clear, especially, putting yourself out there like that in the center, as a center of attention. You want to really be sure your heart is pure, and nothing's wrong with doing it as long as you have the right motive. So that was really important to me, that it was a God thing and not just me trying to, you know, share my name and my voice, things like that. And I'm not saying that people are doing that, but it's just a heart check. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I went to a conference. I felt like the Lord spoke to me. I felt like He confirmed it. And so right after that, I went to talk to my pastor. And at the time, I was living in Florida. Fun fact, I moved back to Florida for 3 years after graduating college. So I've been back and forth, back and forth. Anyways, so I talked to my team. We got together, got a budget together. My pastor gave me the go ahead. He gave me his blessing to start. And then I started reaching out to people with no money. Okay. I started reaching out. God said, start. I said, okay, no money, but I trust you. And then the money came. Literally the money came. So we started maybe, which I had a quick turnaround time. Some people plan for a year. I announced it in May and I had it in September, which is about what, 4 months? June, July, August, September, 4 months later. And I think we started planning around March. March. So March, April. So we started planning around March and April, then I announced it in May. So that was a
Wow.
pretty quick turnaround from May to September. Truly, it really is. Like I said, some people plan for way longer, but that's just how my story was. And so we got together. I had my list of songs, and the songs really did. I had a solidified ish list, and it just started shifting. And somewhere down the line, I was like, nah, this song's getting cut. And okay, well, let's do this song. Da, da, da. We got together, got a color palette together. We decided, how do we want this to feel and look? What is the meaning? My team is amazing. I couldn't have done it without them. I mean, really couldn't. And Kevin Daniel, who was my co-producer, it's funny because I met Kevin maybe in 2018. And then we also did NYC together. So I met Kevin in 2018 because he lived in Atlanta and he played for a conference at a church. And I remember hearing him for the first time. And I remember saying to myself, if I ever have a live recording, I want him to play. I literally made that mental note in my head. I knew it. And because I just knew that he was going to grab the sound and he was going to be the perfect person for what I was trying to do. And I was, that was the Lord, because I was 100% correct. And so I reached out to Kevin and we started working together. And the way I did my live recording, some people do it to where they all get together the week of. That wouldn't have worked for me. Like, they get together from like Monday and they go all the way and they have rehearsals every day. And some people that works, that's a lot. And you have to be able to like house these people, feed these people, all these things. And so what I
Yeah.
did is I had two, well, all of my vocalists were in Florida. So that worked for me. Like, my main team were like Tampa. They were local to me. So that worked for me. I got my demos together, sent them out. We had maybe 3 vocal rehearsals once a month. So one in June, one in July, one in August. And then I had 2 band rehearsals as well. Oh, 3 band rehearsals as well. So when everybody came together, just the band, and we finished, fine tuning the song. So if, me and Kevin would meet separately over Zoom because I was in Tampa and he was in Atlanta, and we would work through some things, and then we'd come back together, have a band rehearsal, make sure we worked out the kinks. And so what we would have done in a week, like some people did it a week, we did it over a few months. And then we came all together for the live recording weekend in September. We came together on a Thursday, which I remember just like feeling so like, oh my God, all these people are here. Like, it's happening. Like, people are flying in, people are taking off, people are coming in. Like, my just being surrounded by my team. Like, I literally like teared up. Like, I can't believe this is happening. And my church donated. I had, there were donations coming in. There were people were buying tickets. It was a faith move. Like, it truly was a faith move because when I started, I had no money. I had nothing. And God provided. And what's a funny story too is I actually didn't know Chris at all before this. I didn't know him at all. And so someone had mentioned him to me and like shared his song. And I was like, oh, okay, this is a good song. And I was like, you know what? He would be really good. Like, so a little bit of my songwriting. When I write a song, when I'm gonna write it, I typically finish it in that one setting. So if I don't finish it in that one setting, that's a hint to me that there is someone that needs to come into the process, or there's something I need to experience to finish the song. For both of
Mhm.
the songs that I have featured artists, well, 3 of them, but we'll talk about Kristen and Chris because the other one we didn't talk about. Anyways, for the one that Chris is on, I wrote that song in 2020, but I felt like it was incomplete. And I was like, man, it needs something. And I was like, you know what? Chris would be great for this song. And I honestly didn't have the budget for it. But I took a leap, and a mutual friend reached out to him, and then I reached out to him, and then from there we just kind of started playing with the song and kicking it and seeing, what can we, throwing it around, and his contributions made My Delight what it is. Like, there were lyrics, but like just little things that's like when you co-write, little contributions can turn the song into something else. And he was the right vibe, the right feel. And since then, like, we're like really good friends. Like, that was crazy. I didn't know him at all, and now we're like super cool, super close. And so that happened later, like I feel like that happened in August, honestly, July, late July.
Wow.
I know. That's crazy because, like, girl, we're almost there. So it happened pretty soon. Um, I originally was gonna do two other like slow songs, like solo songs, and I was like, no, we're not gonna do those. Maybe not this time around. But anywho, yeah, that summer was exciting. It was fun. God, I was just like I tell people all the time, I'm just watching God do it like you. I know it's me, but I'm literally watching it just like you. Like, ooh, that was cool. Okay, God, like because it's such a miracle to be able to do things like this, to have a vision, to have a promise or a dream, and to see it unfold is really a miracle. And I love my team. Everybody is super supportive. I mean, we have so much fun together. That's why I'm so excited for the album release concert that's happening because we're all going to be together again. And it's just like,
Mhm.
God really blessed me with amazing people.
And then, so when is the album coming out? It's October.
The six.
Is there anything else that you want to share about the album or your process or just like anything like that?
I would just say that since I've done a live recording, I've had a few other girls, especially asking me, how can they do the same thing or asking about songwriting or things like that. Honestly, when it comes to these things, the journey is so organic, as in you really can't perfectly map out how you're going to get from A to B. You can do the things that you can do, as in you write the music, research, see what's in your network, who you have that will help you, what resources do you have, and then make deadlines for yourself. Okay, this year I'm going to release a song. All right, so find out what song you want it to be. What's in your budget? Who can you work with? Okay, what do you need to do to raise money? That was another thing. Like while I was blessed to get money, I was working, okay? I was working. I was doing what I could do. I did all that I could do, and God did the rest. And there is no other formula. You do everything you can do. And you believe that God is going to give you the grace to do the rest. If told me that my freshman year I would release this single, and people do think too, like you release one single and now you're poof, everyone knows who you are. It
Yeah.
doesn't always work out like that. You have to be committed and you have to know why you're doing it, and that's going to keep you going. Like I had to stop and realize that so many people were listening to my music because I just love to do it. I just love, that I'm not thinking all the time about like the return of investment, as in I'm putting this out here, are people latching onto it? Because I just know that I'm doing it for the glory of God and I love to do it. And then as you're doing it, you'll realize, oh my gosh, look at what the Lord has blessed me with, the influence that He's given me into people's lives. And that's in fact what it is. When you put yourself out here like that with your gifts, God is trusting you with a certain amount of influence. And I don't think that's anything to make negative or to be afraid of, because as Christians, period, we are supposed to be influential. And so, whatever degree God gives you for that, be grateful and see it as a blessing. I had spent some time in my life being afraid a little bit of the influence or of God, using me in certain ways because I don't want it to be about me, God. Well, that very thought makes it about you. You know what I'm saying? Like
Oh,
you're making it about you.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
that's true.
You gotta understand that, oh God, you're so good. You're being magnified in me, and I'm gonna do my diligence to be a good steward of it. I'm gonna make it look good. I'm gonna make it sound, I'm gonna do my best. And it's a blessing that you are enlarging my influence. It's not a curse, it's not negative. As long as you are walking with God, you can bet that it's gonna come. You want that to come. You do. And so the other side of that is, though, you gotta do the work. Period. You
Yeah.
gotta know why you're doing it. Anyone can do it who's called to do it. Let me add that part. Anyone can do it who's called to do it. No one is special in that way. We're graced and we have favor from God to do it. And so when God leads you, if He gives you a vision, trust Him. But outside of that, do the work with what He's giving you. And so, because we need it, everyone needs what we have that God has given us. And so that's my
Yeah.
last words.
I really love that. Even I've often felt like that of just like I don't need to sing, I don't need to lead, I don't want it to be about me. And like I don't need to be in charge. Sometimes I would feel uncomfortable when I first started doing YouTube of just like meeting people and like taking photos or making videos or whatever. Like I would just feel like uncomfortable about it because I'm like I don't want other people thinking that I want this or I want attention or whatever. But I feel like that even is like a little prideful to think that people are that worried about you, like
Mhm.
it's like really that's just how you're viewing it. I've heard oftentimes like that sometimes like when um you like allow yourself to be super like shy about your gifts or try to hide like that is almost like prideful in itself.
Yeah, it
And
is. And
that's like
you're
a form of
dishonoring God.
pride.
Yeah. And you're
Hmm.
dishonoring God. You're downplaying the very gift that God has given you. So you're downplaying God. It's okay to acknowledge that it's great because God is great. It's okay that it's
Hmm.
great because God is great. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's about you. But anyways, I'm gonna cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it does just go back to like, letting your light shine, like whatever that means for you, whatever your light is. So if your light is music, if your light is speaking, if your light is, creating videos, because when I first started, it wasn't as big of a thing. Like that, everybody had like, cheap live stream setups at their church. Some people were still doing tapes. Some people were still doing CDs. Like the whole like media thing with church was not really like a big thing. When my videos started kind of like getting more views, I was so fearful of like, I don't want people thinking that this is why I started. Because when I started, the only people that were watching were my friends and my family, and this was not my intention. So like I was just always so worried about whatever people were thinking. And once I got to a certain age, like a certain point, I was just kind of like, if that's what people think, I don't know, maybe that's the way that their intentions are.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you have a pure heart and you know that God, kind of like placed you in this position to do this, like you should take that as a gift and it's like an opportunity that the Lord gave you. And so it's cool that you get to make music and all these people get to hear it and they get to hear your heart and God's heart behind it. So, yeah, I think like it's easy to think that way, when everything in this generation is so curated, everything is so fake and so monetized. It's like it's easy to think, oh, this person just wants attention or they want to be cool or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I feel like if you know that you are coming from a place of a pure heart, you should always assume that somebody else is too.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the way that I've been trying to view like everything and so I love that, you talked about that too. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was My Hope Radio.
Mhm.
So for whatever reason, I thought My Hope Radio was like this like in the like the same realm as K-Love. I didn't know that that was an apostolic thing. I just thought that was like a I don't know, CCM type thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you kind of get like involved with My Hope Radio? And also, I believe you won Artist of the Year with the My Hope Radio
Yep.
Awards.
Mhm.
Okay, so kind of talk about like how you got involved in that
Sure.
because I didn't even know that we did awards like that. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I think they've definitely picked up some popularity over the last few years, and people are taking it, like really honoring it. Sister Tiffany Conaway is who directs My Hope Radio, and I first got connected with her when I was in high school, when I sent in a video to be a part of the talent search for NAYC. I ended up not getting chosen that year, which is okay. And then I remember, I think I auditioned. I think I auditioned a few times, and the year that I got in is the year that I was asked to sing on the praise team. So it was so crazy because I was a finalist that year, but I ended up being a worship leader. So I was like, yeah, forget this talent search. No, but so since then, I've had a relationship with her since high school, and she does great work for Apostolic Music. Anytime there's a single, people are releasing music, she's like, hey, send me your single. And so that's kind of how it started. I would send her my songs so she could release and add to her program when I was doing new songs. So even though I didn't get in, because I think I maybe I think it was 2 or 3 times that I had auditioned to be a part of the talent search. And honestly, it was God's sovereignty that I didn't get in. It was just not what He wanted for me because I ended up, singing on the praise team. I stayed in contact with her and, we had that relationship. And when I finally met her the year that I was singing, it was amazing. I was like, hi, hi, like, I was so proud of you. She's been very supportive and sweet. And so the way the My Hope Radio awards work is someone has to nominate you and then they vote. So someone nominated me, which was I thought was like super cool. Like, oh my gosh, someone nominated me. Like, wow. And then, the votes got in, and by the time it was time, I had found out that I had won Female Artist of the Year, which is like crazy. Like, I was like, wow, like, wow, that's so cool. I think that it's so cool. And by no means are you doing it for a reward or anything like that, of course. However, it does feel very special when you put in work and you take your position as a leader in terms of music for our movement or just as a Christian, and there's appreciation or there's a token of we see you type thing. And that feels special. And so I was really grateful for the award, and because it was like, wow, like I've been doing music, like, and oh my gosh, there's an award for it, you know. And so my relationship with her continues. Like I did a podcast with her at NYC this year as well, and I was the first person to be on the podcast, which was really really cool because I felt like my relationship with her was pretty special, and so that's kind of how that happened. Yeah,
Wow. That
yeah,
is super cool. I feel like as Christians, it's so hard to find the fine line between like getting like rewarded, getting like attention, accolades, and then wanting to be like humble and make sure that everybody knows like I'm not asking for attention. Like
yes.
we kind of just talked about this, but like, yeah, I feel like you can almost be like, oh, I don't want people to think I just want to like win or whatever. But it is really cool when you put in a lot of work for something and you do get
I was gonna say like you get flowers for it, like how they say give them
yeah,
flowers and stuff like that, and maybe that's the best way to say it because recognition can be. I mean, it's the same thing in essence because we're so afraid to call it a certain thing because we don't want to sound vain, but
right.
we honor our pastors and we honor
Mhm.
people. We have Teacher Appreciation Month. People who are doing the work. It's just honestly like
Yeah.
honoring them, and if we say it like that, honor is probably a good way to say it. Yeah.
Yeah, just yeah, getting honored for just the work that you're putting in. And especially for you, like you've been putting out music for I mean, I don't even know how old you are, but since freshman year of college, that's had been a couple years.
That
I
was
don't
been,
know.
yeah, it's almost been 10 years. So that was 2015, 16, and now it's 2023. So it's almost been
Wow.
10 years. So what is that, 8 years? Yeah, God has blessed me. Yeah, I've been putting out music consistently for 8 years, almost 10. Yeah.
Yeah, so you've really been putting in the work. Like, not everybody does that. So I feel like sometimes people will put out like a single or maybe two, and it doesn't really get a lot of attention. So they're like, okay, you know what? Like, I don't really want to do it. But it's like, okay, well, is that the only reason you were doing it? Like,
Yeah.
we were on this album when we were kids. It was a mass choir album. And we did like a solo, but it was like me and my siblings like all doing it together. And we were listening to it the other day and we're like, why does this sound like it was recorded on a potato? Like, what is happening? And you can only hear me,
Oh
like,
my
like,
God.
because I was the like, the lead part. I was like alto or whatever. My brother was soprano because he hadn't hit puberty yet, and
That's
and so we
that's a
always
real
called him
life.
like baby Michael Jackson. Yeah, we were listening to it the other day and we're like, yeah, it's a good thing we didn't go into this thing because we're not.
That
I
is
just remember being in the studio and being like, I can't hear anything. I'm so confused. I don't know what's going on.
That's not a real life artist experience right there. That's hilarious.
Yeah, my parents were like, they really wanted us to like pursue like touring and recording, and we were just like, I
No.
just don't think any of us are cut out. Like none of us. My sister writes books. I don't think she's ever written a song though. Um, but it's definitely a lot of work. It's not just about like, getting your name out there and being cool and whatever, like, I feel like you really do need to have, like, a talent and a passion, and not everyone has that. Even if you're a singer, you're not always gonna be a
Mhm,
songwriter.
mhm.
And, like, that's even how it is with just artists in general, even in the secular world, like, not every singer is a songwriter, which is why sometimes, like, singer-songwriters will get more, like, flowers because people are so impressed, like, "Whoa, you can do both?"
Yeah.
'Cause it's really not common, I feel like.
Mhm.
So, anyways, I just think it's super cool to hear about the process and, definitely really excited to hear the album. Do you think that you will do, like, more music in the near future, or are you gonna kinda take a little break after this?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. When will I release new music? I'm not sure. However, I know I want to do an acoustic version of some of the songs from the live recording that I want to kind of do early, like next year, like
Yeah.
winter. So I know I've already kind of been planning that, like, okay, where are we going to do this? What are we going to do? And what's the venue going to be? Like, if you ever watch something like Bethel's, like Unplugged, where they're
Mhm.
in this really cozy place and it's acoustic, or Carrie Joe. That's definitely like what I want to do. So I definitely know that is next. What happens after that? I kind of think we just kind of play it by ear. Some artists do different things. Some artists will release a whole album and then start releasing singles of something else. Like, and I'll be like, yo, that's so fast. We gonna milk this
Yeah.
thing, It takes a lot of time and money and effort, but I don't know. I know for sure the acoustic thing, and then we'll see what happens. At least till the spring of next year, it's just gonna be about this album.
Mhm.
And then we'll see what God does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Maverick City has really changed the game with, like, the releasing back to back to back.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're kinda even slowing down too, because like, that's gotta be a lot of work, like,
It is.
writing it all, arranging it, getting all the musicians, all the, like, features, because they always have somebody, like, cool featuring. But I feel like even they're like, "Alright, we
Slow down.
gotta chill out."
When it was COVID, I think it was much easier to do stuff like that. I also think they have the following where even if one album falls flat with one group, it's gonna fall great for another group because you're taking a lot of risk when you do something like that because you're not sure that it's gonna do well. But the following is so big that what doesn't work for one might work for the other half, and then so they could keep up that quick release. Plus, there's a compromise. There's something that they're trading off. The quality is not like some of the things that we hear now because it's so fast. The quality does come down a little bit more organic, more natural sounding. Not like if you think about Travis Green's last album, The Hill. If you think about The Hill, his first album, or Crossover, Maverick City's albums don't sound like that at all because they
Mhm.
quick turnaround. So like they're not spending a lot of extra time in production and stuff like that. So there's always a trade off, and they have a following where they can do that and no one cares.
Mhm.
Some people not so much, and so it is what it is.
Yeah.
Plus, money, funds it takes to do that.
Right, yeah, it is a lot. I mean, just learning with the single, just how expensive it was to do just one song. I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'm glad I don't know how to write stuff, 'cause I
Yes,
can't afford
yes,
this."
I can't afford this habit.
Literally. So, yeah, I think that's really funny. But, okay, with him, winter and spring, so is there gonna be a summer and fall eventually, do we think? Like, what are we
Probably
thinking?
not.
Okay.
Probably not. Those are the big seasons. Like fall is a transitional season. Summer is a real season. It is a real season. But fall, I feel like it's transitional. Summer,
Mhm.
I guess it could have been winter or summer, but winter and spring feels obviously better. But no, there's not going to be a fall and summer. That's so funny. I don't know. Maybe I'll make like a summer album that's like poppy and super fun. So,
Okay, that would be so cool.
uh, okay.
'Cause I feel like that's kinda what we're missing, like, I think that there's so much, like, worship music being put out, and obviously there's, like, a lot of, like, CCM music that's very, like, poppy, but I feel like even some of that is very much catered towards, like, the middle-aged mom type of group, like, my mom loved her some K-Love. And personally, I love old Toby Mac. Like, I can get down to some 2007 Portable Sounds, and I do, and it's always my number 1 album every single year. on replay. I'm not kidding. I
Hilarious.
love that album. I will ride for that album. But some of the new stuff, I'm kind of like, all right, you're kind of catering towards the older people. But like a poppy, like cool song like Heavenly, I feel like we need more music like that because that
Absolutely.
song still
Absolutely.
hits to
Yes.
this day.
I 100% agree with that. And it's funny because, like, my features, Chris and Kristen, we have that in common where we kind of vibe with that gap. And I think that's why it was so special to have them a part of the project because I felt like we spoke the same language when it comes to like the Christian poppy ish type sound. And mind you, pop is just a genre. Pop doesn't mean lyrics, it doesn't have to mean lyrics, it's just the style of music. And so I love, that. And so I would say those two are onto something. Kristen Sangarian and Chris Branch when it comes to that stuff. And I resonate with that. I have music that I haven't released yet that falls in that vein. And I know that they do too. And Kristen's already done it. And so, yeah, they're the truth.
Yeah, I'm definitely into that sound as well. And I feel like people feel like maybe they have to make worship music, for it to be like a Christian song. But I feel like if you grew up in like the 90s, the early 2000s, like that was the vibe. Like there wasn't a whole lot of worship music other than maybe like, choirs or like Michael W. Smith. But even
Choir,
he, like old gospel is very like poppy, like Kirk Franklin, like the
yeah,
old stuff
absolutely.
with the fam. And
Mary,
then
Yolanda,
Mary,
yeah,
yes.
that's
No,
it
literally
for sure.
Yolanda, what is that album called? Like the one with Victory with the couch.
Believe.
That album.
I
That
had
one.
that album, the real thing, the
Me
real thing.
too.
Very,
Yes.
very thankful. I had that one as well.
Yes.
I had all of CC's albums because that's my mom. I
Yes.
love her to death. Yeah, they were very diverse. If you listen to,
Mhm.
they're honestly the ones that let me know, like this album that I'm releasing, the songs on there, they're not all worship songs. And the reason why I felt like, I can do that is because I remember thinking back, I listened through to a Mary Mary album. If you listen to a Mary Mary album, there are so many genres happening and it still feels
Mhm.
cohesive and then they still make you cry, right? There's still
Yeah.
songs that make you cry, but there's songs that I just need something clean that worships God, that reminds me of my testimony, but it's upbeat and I feel good about it. They had storytelling, they had some good
Mhm.
writing, and we don't have a lot of that, which is why I brought up Chris and Kristen because I feel like when it comes to songwriting, we are alike in those ways where it's like, okay, it doesn't have to just be how great is our God. It can be, you know what? I remember, on September 2nd, Father, the way you did this, and now I'm free. I'm free. It can be anything. That was such bad, so bad lyrics. But you know what I'm trying to say? Like, there's good songwriting. Like,
Yeah,
and
because Nicole C. Mullen, she's over here talking about I know my Redeemer lives, but then she's over here like this gonna be myself. I listen to that song all the time. It's so good. She really snapped on that.
that's hilarious.
Um, I love Nicole C. Mullen. But yeah, I feel like that's kind of what we've been missing lately is just I don't know. I feel like church is fun. Like we need fun music and it's also hard too to like work in kids. And like Hillsong Kids hasn't really released any new albums since maybe like 2017. So it's kind of hard to find songs that work for kids because they get kind of bored with worship songs. So it's like I like to use like current stuff that they would know, but then I'm like, well, this doesn't really work. And so I feel like that's something that we're kind of missing, and so it's cool that you guys are, like, bringing that back, and it's also cool because it's apostolic music, so
Yes.
you feel like this will work in my church because I can play this video on the screen and, they're gonna look like how our kids look, and they're not gonna be like, "Well, why are these kids dressed like this?" or "Why are they doing this?" Like, it kind of just it goes with our message and our beliefs, but it's also really cool. It sounds really good and it's catchy and cool. So I like that. I feel like hopefully I wish that more people will kind of get on board with that.
Yeah, and it's honestly just kind of an innovative place, even with the live recordings. That's new too. I mean, now they're happening everywhere. Everyone's having a live recording. Praise God. Praise God, right? But it's still
Yeah.
pretty fresh for there to be artists in our movement to do that. And even for artists, apostolic artists, period, to make mainstream numbers. That's new, but it's happening. And
Mhm.
so it's just a part of the process of us breaking free into a new place and not treating it like we're afraid of it. Because I feel like that's what kind of happened, there's a lot of fear because people get, famous and they lose their mind. And so that's been the thing that we've been fighting against the fear of that kind of popularity and that kind of whatever. But if you're gonna do something great for God, just do it and don't be afraid. And so it's just a part of the process of apostolics breaking free in these new areas. Period. James and Jalen and Charity Gale. Charity Gale is mainstream. That is a mainstream Christian artist who's apostolic. That is new. We don't. That's not
Mhm.
something that's common. You know what I'm saying? And so, um, it's just a part of it. But we will get there because it's happening. You know what I'm saying? And once
Yeah.
we see that we're able to honor God fully, then we'll release some of the fear that no, you can't do that because da 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 da.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's definitely like a fear of compromise, but I feel like that honestly just goes down to like, do you have a personal walk or not? Like if you don't, then yeah, you are going to be tempted by the money and the fame and whatever. But I think it is possible to, you know, have like kind of a well-known ministry as far as like music and even preaching and not compromise those values. And I know that there are people who have successfully done that. Like I just found out the other day that Sister Joe Strand wrote Alabaster Box. No idea. Never knew that in my life. I saw like a video that Church Milk posted of her like slamming on the keys, and
Yeah.
I love when she does that. I love it. And some
Amazing.
she's so cool. And literally Nicole Binion commented and was like, "Don't be talking about Sister Joe Strand. She wrote Alabaster Box." And I was like, "Nicole, I didn't know that, girl." Like I literally did not
Yeah.
know.
Yes. Oh, it is, it makes perfect sense too. That song is so anointed. I
It's
mean,
so good.
it's so good. But man, Abbassides, we've been underdogs. We've been working, we've been doing stuff behind the scenes, and God is finally there's a place for apostolic music now. God has
There
made it
is.
possible.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool to see like Tasha Cobbs' church bring out I Got a Song. Like I'm
Yeah.
like,
So cool.
Tasha, like
Or
I'm just on like a first name basis with all these people. I'm like, Tasha girl, you did that.
are you coming to Friends and Family Sunday? No,
Literally, I'm like,
we're like, it's a
that's
beautiful
so
thing for
cool.
us to be in that place of influence. And I'll tell you this, the reason why I feel strongly about that is, there's all this say about, oh, we have the truth, da 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 da. We have the truth, and we ought to be releasing that sound too. We bring their songs, they're good songs. They have done great work, and we sing them at our conferences, and we should. But we also should be doing this. They should be doing that for us too. Like we should be able to influence, and they sing our songs that we birthed in our prayer closets. And I also think there's like this thing with lifestyle and all that stuff that sometimes it get really gray on the other side, really great, but I won't go too deep into that. But all I'm saying is, as people of the name who feel like they have the truth, there's no
Mhm.
reason why we shouldn't be influencing there as well and working together. It's not about dominating. I just think that we also should be able to influence as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. I do think there I feel like there's a sort of like fear that comes with that from some people that just, we don't want to lose our people, we don't want to lose our whatever, our convictions, like but I don't know. I do feel like if we know the truth, like we should be sharing it with people. And so whether that means like calling into your like local radio station and being like, "Hey y'all, can you play with him winter and spring?" Like can you play just you? Or whatever y'all do. I honestly do not listen to the radio. I just listen to my own music. But if that's what the people do, then do it. Let's get our music out here because we do have the truth, and we have that message. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Girl Talk. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned something, that you will take something with you from this episode. I really loved hearing your testimony, but I also thought it was really cool to hear about like the process of recording and making music. So if anybody that is watching is kind of trying to get into that space or wanted to learn more about it, I hope that you can take something from this video with you. I also really encourage you guys to go listen to Wedeline's music, but also her new album that's coming out on October 6th. Make sure y'all get it. There will be a link below so you can pre-order. Make sure you get it.
So much fun. So thank you. Keep doing the work, girl. You're killing it. And I hope that someone got something from anything that I said. I've enjoyed Girl Talk. And so hopefully I'm something.
Me too. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you guys loved this episode today. I want to thank you so much for watching and for your continued support. There will be a GC vlog coming soon, General Conference, for those of you that are into the vlogs. I feel like this one is way better than the NAYC vlog. That was not it. But I took a lot of clips with you guys, so I wanted to make sure that I still posted the vlog because I did appreciate that a lot of you guys came up to me and asked to be in it and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure that I still put that up, even though it honestly was not my best vlog, let's just be honest. But the GC vlog is a lot more entertaining and a lot more fun, so excited for you guys to see that. Yeah, once again, just thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for watching just all my videos and for just being so sweet whenever I get to meet you or talk to you online. I really hope that you guys enjoy this video and just other videos as well. And don't forget to check out Wedeline's stuff. I will have all of her social medias and her music linked down below so you guys can have easy access. And yeah, I'm just really excited about this episode and I hope that you guys loved it. So I will see you guys in the next video. Please let me know if there are any guests that you are just like dying to see or someone that you feel like would be a good fit for the show, because I would love to talk to more women and I think it would be really cool to have more conversations like this. So just let me know of some guests that you'd like to see and maybe we can figure out how to get them on the show. Hope you guys are having a great day and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys. Okay. Edit this out. Future me.
Oh, I almost hung up.
I'm dead. That's happened before.